Welcome to the Vinyl Resting Place podcast. My name is Barney Howe.
My name is Dapo Agiri, and we are here with Chris Clarke, aka Clarkie Spish.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us, Chris. Thank you for giving up some of your time on the coronation.
Pleasure.
Oh yeah, bloody shout out to the king.
Yeah. God save the king and all that. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, what you're up to, who you are, what is Clarkie Spins?
I'm Chris. Clarkie Spins is sort of a new vinyl review Instagram that I started in lockdown. I sort of review albums and give my opinion on them, sort of post nice aesthetic pictures of them. And yeah, sort of expanding my collection in the process. I've always sort of collected records for the last, I don't know, 10 years maybe.
How big is your collection at the moment?
Probably got 300, 400 maybe records.
That's a big number.
It's a big number. But only got into it properly the last couple of years. So my bank balance has been affected by it quite badly. But it's exciting. I like old things. I like the old analog sort of system of it. I'm a bit of a sort of old person and young shoulders, do we say?
I like those around here. I feel like that describes us in a nutshell.
But I just anything audio that sounds great. I'm a big fan of.
It is intimidating to be talking to someone who actually knows about music. Often we've had people like, I really like this one artist.
That's you.
Yeah, no, I'd say music is my main passion in life. Quantity surveyor by day, but vinyl enthusiast and music and gig goer by night.
Any good gigs lately? Anything you want to shout out?
Saw DMAs at Wembley recently.
Wow.
Quite a gig. Wembley's quite a concert.
That is a concert.
It was Brixton, but Brixton shut down. R.I.P. Brixton.
I reckon they're going to be back.
Do you reckon?
They'd be mad not.
Well, I get why they wouldn't. Like, obviously, it was a horrific thing that happened. But I just think it is such an iconic venue. That
So good, yeah.
It's going to be.
If you look at the people that played there over the years, I think Pink Floyd might have played there. The Jam and like that sort of. Yeah.
It's a huge venue.
And it's an amazing venue as well.
Yeah,
it
so
sounds incredible.
Yeah.
And the floor, not to get too nerdy about it, but the sloping floor, it's so good.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
Also, we're here now, so we're gonna talk about the like stage, the trimming of the stage makes it look like a amphitheater.
Oh, it's so
great.
grand.
It's unreal.
And it sounds amazing as
It
well.
does sound amazing. It's a great little venue. We digress. We're gonna do.
Yeah, you talk about different things for hours.
We're gonna do that a lot, but I think like for us as well, it's quite interesting to have someone who is like passionate about the album, like as a format, as a product. Like I think we are big proponents of listening to albums all the way through. That's all in the title. It's what we do, right? Like, do you agree with it, or like the idea that you should listen to an album all the way through, or do you feel like you just like collecting vinyls, but you would still kind of listen to songs, and that's how you still engage with music going forward?
I'm strongly of the opinion that albums should be listened to from start to finish.
100%.
It's been lost massively recently. No one really makes albums anymore.
This is true.
Like the last, I don't know, 10, 15 years, you can't really name an album that sort of, maybe a few, but that flows so well and they've been put together so cleverly that each track sort of lends itself to being track 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whereas now everyone's sort of just releasing singles.
I think we're digressing even further now to what can be sampled on TikTok the easiest. We can do like 10-second bursts in songs that's the marketability.
Can you do a dance to this? Like,
yeah,
is this something that can fit into a little snapshot?
I won't spoil like what album you picked. We'll talk about that in a bit. But like there are long stretches of album that would not make sense as a TikTok. But
I mean,
still one of the best albums of all time.
There's long stretches of the album that don't make sense as an album.
Yeah.
It's true.
How dare you?
Not in a bad way, but it doesn't. Before we do get onto your album, we're still big snack fans, and
We be snacking.
we do be snacking.
We do be snacking.
I don't know if I told you this question before, so you might not have had any preparation, but we want to know what your favourite flavour of crisp is.
That's a good question. You're going to hate me for this, but I don't really like crisps.
Ooh, I don't think we've had that answer before.
I don't.
No one said no.
I don't hate
Oh,
crisps.
Yeah, I hear it.
I would never go into Tesco's and buy crisps.
No.
With a meal deal, I'd always get a chocolate bar, Kit Kat,
That's mental.
Kit Kat Chunky, maybe a peanut butter Kit Kat.
I
thing.
went to Tesco before this and got a meal deal. I got sliced apple as my snack.
Wow.
Do you know, I actually respect that more than chocolate bar.
I mean, if you had to, you know what I do like the barbecue pop chips.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
If you call them a crisp,
I would
Yeah, I
call
would.
them a crisp. Yeah,
They're
yeah,
incredible.
A usurper in the crisp scene, I would say. They're really changing the game.
they
You,
are.
you've got to have like good like potato alternatives, like lentil crisp, like root vegetable crisp. They're. I was very against them, and there's definitely like I've been on record saying that they are an abomination, probably, but they do kind of slap.
I think they work. I think they go
need to,
really hard. I think
it's-
that's genuinely a very good shout.
Yeah. For someone who doesn't like crisp, you know,
I mean, if you're gonna press me for a crisp, a standard crisp, I'd probably go for those ridge cut McCoys, cheese and onion.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah.
I think there's something to be said about the ridges of them.
Yeah.
The flavour, I say this, I've said this every fucking episode. The flavour goes in the ridges.
Exactly.
You get more dust.
Bigger surface area, more flavour.
It's probably the surface area, it's the physics of the crisp.
Yeah, exactly.
No, two very strong takes there, to be fair.
Nice.
I'm actually really excited for this.
I'm so excited about this one.
Do you say that about every episode?
Dapo does. But you always get guests on there talking about, like, oh, so this SoundCloud rapper who, like, you can hear him in the back of someone else's track. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this is. But I'll let you. What is your Vinyl Resting Place album, and why have you chosen it? And then we'll discuss how excited I am about it.
The $1 million question. My Vinyl Resting Place album is Pink Floyd, The Wall, from 1979. You obviously get this a lot, but I was very, very torn between probably 20 albums, and I've changed my mind since I picked this one, believe it or not. I think this one is an album. There's a handful of albums that are sort of a bit of a eureka moment for me.
Yeah.
Where you just listen to them and you're like, hold on a minute, that's something different. That's properly out there, and it changes your whole perception of the way you sort of absorb music. I think, not to get too pretentious about it, but it's one of those albums that changed the way I thought about how lyrics can sort of present different emotions and feelings in music. And some albums you listen to and you're like, yeah, it sounds nice, it's nice, and the lyrics are all right, but this one sort of just cuts a bit deeper, I think.
Yeah.
And the themes of it are so deep and dark, but it's just an amazing album. Production value, we sort of talked about earlier before we started. It's so ahead of its time. I love albums that have incredible lyrics, that have great melodies, and production value is amazing. And this, I think, ticks all of those boxes, definitely. And it's just it's a rock opera. That's fair to say. It's almost like a musical. It later produced a film, The Wall, the year later, and it's just a masterpiece. It was Roger Waters' last album, sort of as Pink Floyd. Everything was sort of falling apart, and it's the last of their great sort of trilogy of 70s albums. So they had of Dark Side of the Moon, which was very popular and probably their most popular album, which is amazing. Could have picked that. Animals, which is also amazing, and this is the final one of those three that sort of, it's the last great Pink Floyd album, I think, and for that reason it's definitely one of my favourite albums.
Fair. I mean, I think that it's a very compelling argument, to be honest. I think it, in terms of iconic albums, period, be it sound, look at the physical thing, like Pink Floyd's The Wall is near the top. And yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of this album. I'm so glad we're talking about it today. I think it is near faultless as a piece of artwork. If you're looking at an album as a form to tell like a story, this is pretty much the archetype or the blueprint in my mind. And on top of that, it bangs. Yeah, like it goes. There's soft bits, there's loud bits. It's just amazing. It genuinely makes me a little bit speechless to try and think where to begin.
Yeah.
That's the most articulate Barney's ever been.
It is, and it was a nightmare.
I mean, we talked earlier about albums being proper albums, and this is one of those.
It is.
You have to listen to it all the way through. You can't listen to it. You can't just pick another Brick in the Wall Part 3 and think, this isn't great. You have to listen to it in sequence, and you might misunderstand it if you don't, I think.
Would you like to summarise for our less enlightened listeners kind of the overall narrative of The Wall? What is it about?
So I'm very jealous of you, Dapo, listening to this for the first time.
It's your first time?
Yeah, it's my first time.
Virgin ears of Pink Floyd, The Wall. I'd pay good money to go back to hearing it. But essentially, it sort of follows the story. It's sort of semi-autobiographical of Roger Waters, who sort of masterminded the whole. So he's the bassist in Pink Floyd, main songwriter, sort of, along with David Gilmour, guitarist, who sort of semi-autobiographical take on the life of someone called Pink. Sort of dreamed up as sort of the concept of the album. Sort of, it's cradle to grave, sort of growing up. He loses his father, and his sort of overbearing mother sort of takes control, and then it sees him grow up into a rock star, and sort of all the tribulations that come with that. It leads to depression and sort of social anxiety, and sort of very dark themes of him sort of being lost as this rock star, this really famous person, who sort of has no way out, and he sort of builds this sort of metaphorical wall around himself, and it just sums up a lot of themes in life, really. Just sort of exclusion from everyone. He sort of had everything, but is still lost behind this wall. And I think it's true to say, like, the idea of it came from, they toured the Animals tour, probably 77 or whatever, and he ended up getting very frustrated at the audience, who weren't really sort of participating in the way that he liked, and got frustrated. He ended up spitting at some of the audience, and it sort of started this whole theme of like the control and stuff that he wanted to have. And he sort of went back and sort of wrote this. But yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
It's a very good summary. Yeah, it's a real opera, the rise and fall of someone who's has a difficult childhood, and then you get hooked on drugs later on, and he's isolated and alone, and all in all, they're just more bricks in the wall.
It's true. Yeah.
And eventually, we had it culminates in the trial at the end, where kind of like a very metaphorical rock opera way, he's sentenced just to have the wall torn down.
Yeah.
And it ends on this beautiful, very quaint little melody at the end when he's outside the wall. I think it's the name of the track as well.
Yeah.
Seeing and feeling again for the first time.
I think it's clever. At the very end of the Outside the Wall track, it loops back to the start. Did you know this?
Yeah.
So at the end he says, "Is this where we came in?" And then it comes back to the start. So it's full circle. It's so clever.
I love it when an album. That is.
There's some little Easter eggs in there.
There's many an Easter egg. It's amazing. It's so clever. It's a little bit pretentious. Might be the downfall.
It definitely it takes. I think you can appreciate it on the first time, but there is something in it for no matter how many times you go back to it, it's like, oh, okay, I hadn't heard that little angle in there before, or that little word that makes more sense all of a sudden.
So do you want to know what I think about this album?
I'd love to. I don't really want to know. I don't.
The reason I was excited about this episode is because I was saying to Chris before we started recording as well, kind of in a serious version of what you mentioned, we do perpetuate what my music taste is quite a lot on the show.
Yes,
that is maybe more common, of the guests that we have, and maybe of kind of our generation, what is popular at the moment, or is a little bit more on the kind of soulful side, jazzy influences, disco influences, hip hop influences. So I didn't really get to do a lot of discovery in the podcast, and this was a big discovery. It was complete carte blanche. I've never listened to it before. Know of Pink Floyd. I've listened to Dark Side of the Moon. Was probably it. I've heard Another Brick in the Wall before. When it came on, I was like, oh, I know this song. But really haven't had an opportunity to delve into it. So I was like, sweet, I've got time on my hands. Let's just give it the time it deserves. And it is fucking unreal. To be fair, as a piece of music, it is amazing. And like we talk a lot about dramatic music, but the ebbs and flows of it from start to finish, like, is breathtaking. But I do find the like fantastical elements of the lyricism quite hard to tap into. Like the way you guys just described the storyline behind it, I was like, oh shit, like I do kind of see those themes, and as you kind of outline them to me, having like the knowledge that you both have, it is very clear to me. When listening to it like first, second, third time, those start to seep in, and like you understand like there is a storyline that is being followed, but like I found it very hard to connect with the lyrics. Like, I think that is a personal thing as well. I like really like I say like captionable lyrics, like lyrics where it's like, oh, that perfectly encapsulates something that I experience, and like I just haven't been able to put it into words. I don't really get that with this album, and I find it hard to like when I take the like lyrics as they are, I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? But then it feeds back in and it makes sense again, and I'm like, okay, I get it, and I understand what they're doing with it. But as like an outsider and an outsider to a kind of Pink Floyd as a band, it was hard for me to engage with it on that level, because I was just like, I just don't have any idea where they're taking this song. My other criticism, this is we always say this, it's too long, bro. Like, it is an hour and a half of music.
So it should be. He's got things to say.
It's so long. Like I had to do it in 2 sittings. The first time I was there, it was like, oh, only 16 songs left. Like, there's no way I'm gonna be able to do this before dinner. Like, it was like I even said it, like it is a hefty boy. Like, it is a hefty
Yeah,
boy.
she's a big girl.
Well worth it though.
Yeah.
Well worth it. And I like thank you for bringing the album to me. And I think like as we go forward in this whole kind of podcast and kind of music reviewing space that you're in as well, like this is the sort of thing I want to do is go back to things that I haven't had the like it wasn't part of my upbringing, it wasn't something that I was exposed to at a young age at all, and like fill in the gaps of where I've missed. And there will be gems like this album that I'll adore, and like I'm not sure I'll listen to it again. Like, it's a lot to listen to. It's kind of like War of the Worlds. Like,
Yeah.
it is a lot to listen to. Like, you can appreciate the majesty of it, and like
It's a spectacle.
yeah,
As much as it is.
like, it's not. I wouldn't say much of it is like headphone music for me.
So you're seeing it as like a Schindler's List kind of deal, where you can appreciate it's banging, but you're not going to put it on every Friday night.
Facts. Yeah, that's
okay.
a very good analogy. Yeah. Not what you were expecting me to say, was it?
Not entirely. I'm glad. I was worried you would say that you just didn't like it.
No,
I'm glad you liked
it is a really good album. Like, it's really like we were talking about, like the production value is just nuts. Like,
it sounds incredible.
I kept checking back, being like, surely this wasn't made in 1979. Like the sampling of like the all, like skits sort of sampling of like the what's like TV show excerpts. That's like a precursor to stuff that is used today all the time, like all the time. Like, I was listening to Scissor's album, Random Tangent, but there's a bit,
a lot of crossovers.
With Scissor.
Same artist.
But there's like a little outro with like a mum like shouting at a child, and I was like, this is like The Wall. But it's what 30 years ahead of its time. Like, it's mental. Like, it's a really good album.
Yeah.
Really good album. Thank you for bringing it in.
Yeah, how would you respond and defend that?
I'd say you need to listen to it a few more times.
Yep.
I will give it the time it deserves.
Barney said earlier, there's so many nuances and little skits and little bits of audio that you think, oh, I didn't hear that the first time. Oh, that lyric, oh, that changed. There's a lot to listen to. Yeah, don't get me wrong, but have you watched the movie by any chance?
No, I found out about the album 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I didn't until you said it. I didn't know there was a movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. So they made a movie of the same title,
Mhm.
which has Bob Geldof as the main character. I think
Wow.
it's not really. It's quite a well-rated movie, but it's not. It's not
not
really
good.
a movie.
Yeah,
It's just a movie with the songs in it. But there's some incredible visuals and it sort of tells the story a lot better.
Mhm.
And I do what I would appreciate is that it's not immediately clear the themes.
Mm.
One criticism I would say is that it's not totally obvious what they're talking about
Yeah.
until you look into it and someone says, "Oh, well, that symbolizes that." But I think that's brilliant and part of the charm. I think that everyone could sort of take different things away from it. It's not spoon fed to you. It's not sort of I call TikTok music.
Yeah.
Something that's just it. I love bears. Oh, it means I love bears. It's so there's so many different ways you could take each of the tracks. Like you might take Mother, which is like a song about an overbearing mother. It's such a beautiful song, but it's also such a sad song. Really, it's not. It sounds on the first listen, you might think, "Oh, that's quite a nice, pleasant song." It's the chords are all major. It's all nice. You got nice sort of almost like lullaby sort of singing, and then you actually listen to it again. You think, "Oh, that's actually quite deep." That's like about him being fucked up because of his mum being so overbearing and stuff.
It's got a whole lot of like the seas may look warm to you, babe, and the skies may look blue. Kind of like saying that everything looks nice, but actually isn't.
Yeah.
Just me and my mum.
Is that Thin Ice or is that?
No, it might be Thin Ice. Fuck.
No.
He's been goofed.
It is Thin Ice.
No, but I mean that's another point. The tracks that they're not singles. You know what I mean? Like you said earlier, they're not at all singles. And like you might be like, oh, that track, and I might be like, I don't know what track that is. I can't really place it, but because I listen to it all in one go, or I listen to it all in certain segments. You know what I mean? It is long.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And there is a little bit of filler maybe potentially in it.
Yeah.
I think that there are songs that I will think of immediately, and there are songs that I think are less good than those. I think they all work into telling the overall narrative. But I do think some are definitely better than others. And you were right, that isn't in Mother, that was in Thin Ice.
You can't make a 26 song album without filler. You can't have 26 songs of pure gold. It just doesn't exist.
I will say it comes close. I think it comes closer than many other albums of this length, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I don't disagree. Like a lot of it is very listenable, but I love like a tight 13 song album. Give me about 45 to 50 minutes. Cool, we go home, we're happy. Like make your songs a little bit longer, have a little bit less of them, and then just put out your best work that you don't need.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
That's just my own like personal preference because I'm a lazy listener.
There's a lot of albums where you sort of think that could have been a single disc rather than double.
Yeah, 100%.
Trying to think what. Tommy by The Who, that's another like rock opera. That's too long. I don't particularly like that. Elton John's what's it called?
Yellow Brick Road?
Yellow Brick Road.
Yeah.
That's too long.
There are some bangers on there, maybe 3 of them.
The first side of that's amazing, and then the second side you're singing about Jamaican dancers, and
I have the I know what I think I've played the second one twice.
It's not worth taking out the box.
Yeah,
but if you made that into a single album, you'd be like, that's the best album he's ever made. But it probably is still. But I'm trying to think what else.
I would like to go against what you said about you don't think the lyrics are very quotable in this. I think some of them personally have resonated with me very much in the past. But I want to clarify my position with this album. This is kind of the antithesis of your experience with it. This was something my dad put on growing up a lot. I've seen Brit Floyd or Ozzy Floyd, two of Pink Floyd's biggest cover bands, live 5 or 6 times, maybe a piece at this point. I saw it in auditorium at the Fringe show. When I used to have my old little Peugeot 106, this was one of the 5 albums I had on CD. So I would like drive from rural bumfuck nowhere Bedfordshire up to Leeds to go to university, like, oh, thank you, at night, and like have this on and listen to it like twice on the way up.
Oh God!
Like this is probably one of the albums I've listened to most in my life, be it consciously or just because someone older than me's put it on. So I think I've had the time to kind of pick up on those more quotable lyrics, but things like I've got a strong urge to fly, but I've got nowhere to fly to.
Yeah.
Like really, for me, encapsulated. Like I know I want to do something, but I don't know what it is. There's so many that I will listen to when I'm editing this and kick myself for not thinking of right now.
Yeah.
the whole idea, I think phrases like comfortably numb as well.
Yeah,
because we're all. I think that's a perfect description of what it feels like to be in that state.
yeah.
I mean, that's probably the best. You're probably going to ask me later what my favourite song, but I'll jump to that now.
Let's do it. Go for it. Our job for us.
Yeah, that's a what's your favourite song in the album?
That's a great question.
It's funny you should ask.
Comfortably Numb is probably one of them. Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 and Comfortably Numb are two of the singly sort of songs that I think they had to put out. Their record company were probably like, right, you guys need to sort yourselves out and put some singles out.
Something for this to sell.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the best song of all time, potentially, I think.
Wait, Comfortably Numb.
Yeah, fair.
It's got everything. It's got amazing lyrics. It's got incredible melody. It's got the best guitar solo ever written, David Gilmour. It's stunning. It really is. The lyrics of it, I take it as someone that's depressed potentially and having sort of, this is the way I look at it, sort of having like antidepressants or something like that to sort of numb the pain, but you still don't feel yourself. You're comfortably numb. You're happy enough, but you're not all there. Do you know what I mean? And that sort of resonates quite closely with me. And that's the way I look at it. But equally, that's such a different song to lots of different people. They might think about it as drug abuse or being an alcoholic or whatever. What do you think?
I kind of interpret it narratively. Yeah, it's about him. Basically, he's off his rocker at this point in the story, and like is being doped up by the chemist or whatever backstage to make him basically able to perform. But I think it is a point in the story where he's like kind of come back to himself a bit. So there's points in the song where he like remembers something happened in his childhood, and the lyrics I'm going to paraphrase again, but like, I turned to look, but it was gone. I cannot put my finger on it now. The child is gone. The child has grown. The dream is gone, or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really poignant way of saying like he is effectively losing your sense of who you are, whether that's from, like you say, drink, alcohol, drugs, overwork, whatever, and kind of having these flashes of who you used to be like come through your mind. I think it's a song about losing sense of self. But yeah, and the how easy it is to slip into a comfortable numbness of just a day-to-day existence.
Yeah,
and forgetting what you're really about or where you've really come from.
It's worth noting. I don't know how much you know about Pink Floyd. Probably not a lot, but
no, look at me, you idiot.
Jesus.
Just based off what you said.
Yeah.
That's fair to say. But so they started off as like a very sort of psychedelic band in the sort of late 60s, and I love this. I said to you earlier, it might not even be my favourite Pink Floyd album. It just, there needs to be one on your podcast, and this is the one to talk about, I think. But their early stuff was like crazy, proper out there stuff that you'd be like, that sounds bizarre. Like extended intros and massive instrumentals and stuff like that with no lyrics and stuff. But then they had their sort of lead songwriter, a guy called Syd Barrett, who was incredible songwriter, like one of the best, sort of went off the rails, started using a lot of LSD and just fucked himself up basically, and had to leave the band, got kicked out of the band because he couldn't perform. And this, I think that song is all about him, really. It's about his struggle, and he eventually wound up and he died. Like it's really sad, but I think they always kept their roots strong to him, who was such a big part of their creation, their sort of genesis. And it's an ode to him, really, I think, along with lots of other songs. But it's worth looking into some of the old stuff.
I feel like there's like, the more you discuss it, there's such like a almost like a folklore like behind them as a band. Like there is just so much context that needs to be, I think, dug into a little bit deeper as a listener to really understand.
To compare them to another artist they have absolutely nothing in common with, I think they're semi like Mac Miller in that way. Like, you as a huge Mac Miller fan, you're like, oh yeah.
Did you plan this?
No, I really. You told me like, oh, this album came out when he was seeing Ariana Grande, and then he lost her, and that's why this song is sad. Like, if you know the history of the band, and where they come from, then you get even more of these little like, oh, that makes a bit more sense now, and this is obviously talking about that. But yeah,
it's also ironic as well because Roger Waters went on to pretty much, so during the production of this, he fired the keyboardist, fell out with the whole rest of the band, massive tensions, and it's just ironic really because he was sort of ineffectively building this wall around himself, and eventually had to leave the band. Never really got back to that sort of glory. But he's a bit of a I don't know how you describe him. Bit of a tosser.
Yeah, that's a correct term.
Bit of a pretentious twat, shall we say? But you can't dispute his genius.
Yeah.
He's literally sat at home and thought about this and thought, I'm going to make an album about bricks in a wall, and he's made this 26 song album with that same theme and with such varied songs on it. It's just genius.
It is. Like the conception of it's nuts. I think I get that with quite a lot of music, and as like a lover of, again, not to sound pretentious, but a lover of the art of making music.
Yeah.
Even though I don't have the capacity myself, like to take something from like nothing. There was nothing as a precursor to the wall, and then make it what it is mind-boggling to me. Like to take each step where you're okay, this song is good, like you said either before we recorded or earlier in the episode, like you know that like this could be track 1, this could be track 2. There was a reason that this is track 2 because it leads into track 3, blah blah blah. I couldn't even start. I wouldn't know where to begin to put this together. And I think when you do take a step back and look at the actual craft that's gone into this album, like, you can't help but just admire it. And I think the word genius is probably correct, because it's beyond comprehension. Like it's nuts to me.
I think nowadays you obviously get artists, which is sad, but they have whole teams of people that help them write songs. I can't stand. I hate bands that don't write their own songs.
Yeah,
I hate singers that don't write their own songs. To me, that's just worthless. To be honest, they're just a singer. They're not an artist. They're not creating anything.
Like a printer.
Yeah, they're literally a printer. They're like a sound temple, sort of a postman.
See, I do disagree with that, because I am that's me. I just sing, but I get where you're coming from. But then I think there is a level of like creativity to take, like anyone can sing, right?
Yeah.
But to take the notes that are on the piece of paper and to make it what it is as a performance, like that elevation is the creative.
I guess Elton John didn't. I only wrote the music, didn't he?
Yeah.
He didn't write the.
He's also a genius, but he didn't write the lyrics. But that's a difference.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about, like, I don't know.
Like ghostwrite. People who have complete ghostwriters, they don't play an instrument. They don't have any touch in the process. I do hear it. I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, he's literally sat in a room, depressed, and thought, and just to come up with this album from nothing. And it's just it boggles my mind how he can sort of, how one person can just, it's all him. It's all him. A good producer, Bob Ezrin, I believe, sort of made this sort of some of the songs more fitting for like radio and stuff. Like Another Brick in the Wall Part 2's very disco-y. It's got a disco-y thing to it, which was really popular at the time. So you can definitely hear it's of the time. But then equally it's timeless, I think.
I mean, it is. I mean, I picked it up in 2023, and I probably do need to listen to it a bit more, but there was a like immediate affinity to it, like especially for someone who's not a like connoisseur of the genre as well. Like it still had the desired effects. I think it is pretty timeless, to be fair. I mean, you might have touched on it. Did you pick a favourite song? Can you pick a favourite song?
And do you have any honourable mentions? I think you said you think it was maybe the best song of all time, but is it your favourite on the album?
Probably. It probably gets the most listens. It's the most. It's a song you can just put on that stands out on its own.
It's one of the more listenable tracks.
It's that guitar solo at the end just sends me to that makes me feel tingly inside. Not to get really weird about it, but there's a song called "Don't Leave Me Now," which follows on from, what the name of the song is?
One of My Turns.
One of My Turns and "Don't Leave Me Now." Good knowledge, Dapo, mate. I'm very impressed. So One of My Turns leads on to "Don't Leave Me Now." They're both like such tragic songs. So he finds out that his wife back home while he's on tour is being unfaithful to him, and he's with a groupie, like having sex with a groupie. So he's also cheating on his wife, which is just fucked up. But anyway, he basically goes into one of his turns, as it suggests, and just starts trashing all the noise you can hear in the background is him smashing up his hotel room. You sort of hear her come in and sort of be marveled by all these guitars. She says,
Want to take a bath?
"Want to take a bath?" We're getting Dafo's
Just
getting
like
uncomfortable. and it's just amazing. It's just like you can hear that he's got everything, and he just goes off on one and just starts smashing up his hotel room, and then that leads into "Don't Leave Me Now," which is just him just pleading with his wife not to leave him. It's so sad, but it's amazing, and I love the way the songs flow into each other. That's a big thing.
Very nice. Yeah.
It's a bit like I don't know. I mean, it perfects the idea of it being a rock opera or a concept album, because every song just flows.
It's seamless.
You don't need to. It doesn't break at all.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the second side of Abbey Road.
Yeah.
Which I could have equally picked today. That's
Very fair.
yeah. You love the Beatles, don't you, Dapo?
Yes. This is it.
That's my bone to pick.
So Chris has a bone to pick with me. Let's have it out.
Well, I was listening to your Definitely Maybe.
Yes.
With I can't remember his name.
Charles.
Charles. Which is really good. Definitely Maybe is amazing. Oasis was my first love of music. It really got me into rock music when I was young. But then you went off and said, I think you said the Beatles weren't great, pretty much in a nutshell. Or you said they had lots of rubbish songs.
They do have a lot of shite. It's like an extrapolation of the same, like my issue with long albums. Like if you make that much music, right, some of it's gonna be bad. Like no matter how talented.
What's the bad Beatles song?
I'm not a big fan. Hey Jude's not that.
Are you?
Hey Jude is so overrated.
You're wild.
It's just not that good a song. I would say there is about. I would say half of. You know this about me, don't you? You've got backing today. I would say about half of Sgt. Pepper's is.
Oh, that's a big claim. That's another good concept album.
I get the concept.
Such a game changer as well.
Revolutionary doesn't equate to good. That's a big thing for me with the Beatles.
But if they're both, then it does.
I disagree. They're not mutually. They are not mutually exclusive. Like,
no, I'm saying it's revolutionary and good. That makes it amazing, in my opinion.
Yes, I hear that, and I get that, and I will die on this hill because you're gonna kill me. But
okay, it's just interesting. I don't.
I do feel like because they were so revolutionary and they were so ahead of their time, and they approached music just in a way that had never been seen before, and you can't take that away from them. That masks a lot of music which 30 years later doesn't stand up for me personally. Like, and the thing is, they can sell out a tour because they've made so much good music.
Yeah,
they made so many. They have unbelievable tunes. They could fill a 2-hour set with their top hits, and there would not be an issue. But then there are how many tracks do you reckon Beatles have?
I can say albums, never mind tracks.
Like there's so much that just sits in the dark recesses of people's memories because no one thinks about them because they're not very good.
There's a strong disagree from me. I think they could fill a 2-hour set with their worst songs and it would still be incredible.
Yeah.
I
think I'm gonna come down somewhere in the middle, as I always do on this podcast. I think there we go. Yeah. Good old centrist stance. Liberal Democrat. I think they rightly deserve their place as potentially the best band of all time, to be quite frank. So
I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with that.
I think their album of just the highlights is like mental, and there's also bits like you don't get on that, like the back end of Abbey Road, like pretty much all of Sgt. Pepper's, in my opinion. That's my favourite Beatles album. Even ones like Revolver that aren't traditionally seen as like, oh, this is one of the best albums they ever did. There's still a lot of good stuff on there. However, like, could I name you that many songs on Revolver? No. I know I'd enjoy it if I put it on. I don't think they're bad per se, but I think I agree with the concept that all artists have better music and they're good music. I just think that the Beatles were operating at such a high caliber already. Actually, no, I'm not coming. I'm just agreeing with Chris. What Chris said.
I think what you're saying is they were such a good band that some of their other stuff looks worse compared to their great stuff. Is that
No,
fair?
no, but that's not what I'm
I think
saying.
that's what he's saying.
That's
That's
not
what
what
I think that's the.
That's what he said.
That's not what, I hear that, but maybe we can pull up the receipts. I hope I didn't say that they're a bad band, because I don't think that they are a bad band. I just think like that there is just a lot of like not that good music, and it's not in like comparison to their peaks. Like I don't think you should judge their floor based on their ceiling, right? Like it should
Okay.
be based. I just don't think that
That's fair.
floor is
Yeah.
very high. Like
Okay.
I just think because the back catalogue is just so vast, and like I've made an effort to try and be more like musically inclusive, and like the start of that for me was the Beatles, Queen, like trying to understand like the real like stars of music that I don't necessarily listen to, or I didn't listen to at the time, or didn't have like that like introduction to. And I was like, what's all the fuss about? Like obviously then you listen to like Abbey Road and you're like, okay, I get it. Like I'm with you 100%, fine. I think Revolver's a really good example where it's like,
I love Revolver.
Yeah, I feel like we're never gonna agree. We're never gonna agree.
But I think a little bit like what you think about the Rolling Stones.
Okay.
So I think they're a pretty overrated band.
Yeah.
Oh, they've obviously got some incredible songs and some great albums, but some of their stuff's rubbish. I think. But that's probably what you think about the Beatles. So that's fair.
Yeah.
Should we agree to disagree on that?
Yeah, I think so. That was a good tangent though.
Very mature.
It's interesting. It's interesting to see your take. This is the most forceful Barney's ever been with me, and you're never coming back on the podcast because I don't like
a red cap coming up, and I'm
the cut of his jib. I'm not.
I'll make you a playlist on Spotify with some Beatles songs that aren't very popular that you'll love, I think. But feel free to take the shit. Yeah. You're entitled to your opinion, even though it's wrong.
Go back to the wall. Chris has chosen some excellent tunes for his potential best song on the album. Dapo, where do you come on best song on the album?
So I think we always find when we are listening to music we haven't heard before, we tend to lean towards like the popular tunes because they're probably what we've known most.
Yeah.
I'm probably doing the opposite today.
Ooh.
My favorite, like, obviously, Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 is great. Prefer Part 1. Prefer Part 1. Part 1. And I feel like because it's still got the same like underlying melody to it.
Yeah.
So it had the familiarity, but it's just a completely different song. And I was like, this is nice. Why do I know this? And then Part 2 came on. And I was like, this is why I know this.
Yeah.
But I just think Part 1 is it was quite a. I think it endeared me a lot more to the album because there was a lot of influences that were not necessarily like your classic rock opera or like it wasn't what necessarily the first two songs were giving me. It was a bit of a left turn, which I quite liked. And then I thought like Empty Spaces was fucking haunting.
Yeah.
Like, I was on the bus. I was on the bus and I was just like, I think I need to take a break. It is a really, really mesmerizing piece of music. I wish it was longer. Those would probably be my. I actually think Comfortably Numb is incredible piece of music. Loved it. But I would say Part 1 and Empty Spaces probably like hit me the most on first listen, and I think that like initial that reaction was more like I'm gonna be pretentious again, more like visceral with sort of like Empty Spaces than it was for
Part 1 leading into Happy Stage of Our Life. I think that build up in Happy Stage of Our Life when it starts off like a really simple sort of bassy sort of disco-y beat, and then it goes into that sort of operatic finale, then leads straight into that we don't need that. It's so good. It's so
really
good.
Yeah.
And you don't hear that when you hear the radio. If you listen to the radio and you hear Another Brick in the Wall Part 2, you just hear the Brick in the Wall Part 2, but you don't hear that precursor to it.
The lead.
And it leads. It's so good, so good.
And it has that great line about the school teachers when they get home at night, the fat and psychopathic wives thrashing with the lynch of their lives.
So good. Imagine Justin Bieber coming out with that.
Such a
Just
good
that
line.
psychopathic wives scratching within an inch of their lives. So good. Yeah.
It is so good.
Maybe JB will now be out
Maybe.
soon.
Yeah.
Imagine
I'd love
JB.
to see.
He could do a JB Pink Floyd The Wall sort of.
He did have quite a The Wall experience at the start.
Did he?
I don't know. He was very young and then seemed to go a bit mental. Bought a monkey.
Yeah.
I think it's always a sign of an artist going off the deep end a bit.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow. It just fucking stands it's timeless, mate. It
Yeah,
stands
it's
the test of time.
Well, we're always going to have people that go off the rails, I guess.
Yeah.
It's sad, but it's going to be relevant, I suppose.
True.
What's your favourite song, Barney?
Happiest Days of Our Lives was in my kind of consideration. For me, not to beef in the flesh, Thin Ice or Another Brick in the Wall Part 1. That's where it kind of kicks off for me. I think if you look at that and Another Brick in the Wall Part 2 is that one song, which I think is kind of easy to do. It's just like a really long intro. I think that's where it like really kicks itself into gear. So I think hats off to it for that. I also wanted to talk about Vera into Bring the Boys Back Home. I think is lovely. Yeah, I think that rivals One of My Turns, that kind of duo that has going on. That's maybe when we see Pink at like one of his most vulnerable stages, I think.
Yeah.
Remember how we said we meet again some sunny day?
Yeah.
And it's got that really haunting, like, I don't know if it's a violin or something, but it sounds like a gate closing, whatever. I think that's beautiful. The Show Must Go On, I don't think gets as much love as it deserves.
Yeah.
But I think in the end I'll go for The Trial is maybe my favourite one.
Ooh,
interesting.
Because I think in my mind it functions as a bit of like a greatest hits section for the album itself. So we get like the riffs of the teacher and the mother coming back, like, and the sounds that come with them. So getting to return to them and basically seeing what I think is like a micro version of the whole album in one song.
Yeah, agreed.
Is maybe, even if it doesn't like, it doesn't go hard, I'm not going to put it on at the club, whatever. But I think like in terms of construction of a song, I think it's incredibly impressive. And also it completely ties everything up in such a wonderful bow, along with some amazing vocal performances. Like there's acting as well as singing in there, and I'm a huge fan of that. Yeah.
Have you listened to they released in 1990, if you had The Wall live.
I haven't.
After the Berlin Wall came down, they performed it for charity on the scene of where the wall actually was stood.
Oh wow!
So very metaphorical, but they got so many. It's on Spotify and shit. But they got so many famous artists to perform that. Who was that? Van Morrison did Comfortably Numb.
Wow!
You got Marion Faithfull did a bit of The Trial as the mother, and then you got like Bryan Adams and Cyndi Lauper and Sinead O'Connor. That it's all stars.
That's mental.
Listen to it.
I can't believe that. Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing. So that's a proper worth a listen to as well. It's a different sort of view on it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same songs, but taken differently, and it just makes you think how much effort they put into. So on the tour, they lost money because they didn't make any money from the tour because they put so much money into pyrotechnics and the stage show. The whole stage had like cardboard cutouts of bricks, and they were assembled throughout the show.
Yeah.
Proper show.
Yeah.
And then the wall would just come down at the end. And so none of them made any money apart from Roger Wright, not Roger Wright.
Waters?
No, Rick Wright, who was fired and then was paid as a session musician because he was fired from the band. So he's the only one that made money out of that tour.
I did not know that. That's really cool.
But yeah, I don't know what we were talking about, but your favourite songs?
Yeah, I think that's me pretty much done, to be honest. I mean, I
Waiting for the Worms gets an honourable mention.
Waiting for the Worms,
that's pretty deep. Waiting for the Worms. Think about that.
Another great, very quotable feeling line.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is.
And also, I mean, like, it is kind of the standout choice, but Comfortably Numb is just insane. Yeah.
There's a version with David Bowie on YouTube who sings it as well.
Also,
one Benedict Cumberbatch. Have you heard that?
No, I have not.
What's
he doing there?
He's singing the Roger Waters bit with David Gilmour. Yeah, it's really
That's
weird.
so wild.
The thing I love about that song is so I'm getting quite excited about the song now.
No.
You get the Roger Waters sort of very archetypal sort of melancholic sort of verses, all in sort of minor keys. And then you get David Gilmour with sort of more of a lullaby sort of voice coming through as the sort of chorus, and it just the difference in those sort of is amazing, and it just changes the song completely, I think. But yeah.
Okay.
You had a lot of albums that you could. Chris sent me like
I can't remember what I sent you now.
8. Oh, this is a great game. Oh, okay, so you sent me 1, 2, 3, 4. You sent me 5 albums as recommendations. Can you guess the 5 albums that you sent me? So the ones that could have been your vinyl resting place.
Abbey Road, is that on there?
No.
Fuck.
There was no Beatles. No Beatles at all.
I thought I'd try and be a bit more obscure than pick the
Yeah.
Beatles, and you hate the Beatles. So. Pet Sounds by Beach Boys was on there.
That was on there.
Yeah.
Incredible album.
Incredible album.
Nah, that
Incredible album.
So good.
Dapo sent me a screenshot of what you said, and I think I responded, "Oh, mad Beach Boys."
I love the Beach Boys so much.
Yeah.
Brian Wilson's a genius.
I think they're underrated. They're very much seen as like Surfing USA and nothing else, but
Yeah.
they did some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Have you listened to that?
Yeah.
The Pet Sounds.
Yeah.
That's so ahead of its time. The
Oh,
production value.
incredibly. Oh, it is. It's yeah.
What else on there? Badfinger, Straight Up was probably on there.
Yes, it was.
Incredible album. Really sad story with them. 2 of them commit suicide after they got fucked over by the management, and
Oh gosh.
the Beatles record label fucked them over, so that was it.
Oh, wow.
What else on there?
One is
Blondie.
Blondie, yeah, Parallel Lines.
Love Blondie. Do you love Blondie?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, Parallel Lines.
That's a great album.
Great album.
What else on there?
2 more.
Was just the Flaming Lips wasn't on there. Yoshimi
Ooh,
Battles the Pink Robot. That's a good concept album as well.
that's great. I love that part 1 and 2 as well.
Oh, so good.
Yeah,
Flight Test.
Straight over my head.
You'd love that.
Is that feeling all the other episodes?
What else is on there?
One is not on Spotify.
Oh, yeah, I was going to pick this one. Neil Young, Rust Never Sleeps. Incredible album. So good. Yeah, Neil Young took his music off Spotify, which is a shame. But
That's why you stay on SoundCloud, kids.
well, I've got the vinyl, so it's fine. Well, I don't know.
SoundCloud came before vinyl.
And it will be here long after.
Never ever been on SoundCloud in my life.
It's just I'm an Android user who uses SoundCloud. It's the big ick.
They've like proper artists and stuff on there. Is it
Yeah,
just like
yeah. Everything's legit. It's not all.
You don't pay for it.
Yeah, you do pay for it. I pay. I think it's just gone up. It was $7.99, but now I pay $9.99.
So you can get it with like ads if you
Oh.
pay. Like, very Spotify.
It is the same as Spotify, but then I'm so far deep into it now. Like all my music is on there. So I just can't.
You get stuff in all
Yeah.
this, that kind of thing.
The last one was Jesus and the Mary Chain.
Oh.
Dark
Incredible album. I thought that was a bit obscure. I thought no one
Never
would be
had
talking
it.
about
Never.
that. Have you had Jason the Mary Chain?
I know of them. I couldn't like name you much of their stuff, to be honest.
That album is incredible.
I should go out.
Definitely listen to that. It's pretty heavy. It's on the heavier side of what I listen to. It's quite grungy, sort of, quite depressing music. A lot of my music is quite depressing. I was on the Orcs one time at some party, and someone was like, "Do you have any music that sounds like remotely happy or like nice?" I don't think so. What's your opinion on Spotify in general? And SoundCloud and whatever, Apple Music taking money from artists?
I would say, right, I'm going to caveat this by saying Spotify, you can sponsor us. Like we will happily be a Spotify podcast.
If they must.
I think it's all kind of what we spoke about earlier in terms of kind of how people digest music, and it's very much a sign of our times. Like you need to have a song that gets high streams, and that is just the world we live in. I don't think it's a good thing. I think people should reap more of the benefits of the work that they do, and that is financially like that. That's why people live the dream and pursue it, is because financial benefits can be out of this world. I think there should be more of a trickle down effect. Like there just doesn't need to be, the money doesn't need to be caught up so much. But I think why I still think it's a good thing, like streaming platforms as a whole, it gives people a platform. Like
Yeah.
the way in
Yeah.
which people absorb music is as universal as it's ever been. Like you can find out about an album that was made in fucking 1999 by an Israeli, like you just all music that's ever been created is out there, and all music that is ever going to be created has a place for it. Like you might have 2 listeners, but those listeners may never have found your music if it wasn't for Spotify.
For example, we're on Spotify.
Yeah,
and we don't have any kind of it's just us 2 guys doing shit. Like
and I think that in itself is quite special.
Yeah.
But they should just pay them more. Like it shouldn't be. I can't remember what it is now, but like it's like for every stream is like 0.06 pounds or something like that. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Like there doesn't need to be whittled away that much. But
I think it was Lady Gaga who made an interesting point a while ago. She was saying like basically ever since the MP3 came out as like something you can download, like the music industry fundamentally changed, and now like if you want money, you have to tour.
Yeah.
It is just different to what it was, and that is, Spotify doesn't help that problem, but they, if they didn't exist, something else would, and SoundCloud is the same. Like they will pay their people some money per stream rather than it being done per physical vinyl album.
Yeah.
It is just the game has updated, it's evolved.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's going to be smaller and smaller because the next thing is sounds. Like the most popular sounds on TikTok or Instagram Reels, like that is launching careers. Like if your sound is just, I mean,
Jack Harlow.
Yeah. I mean, that First Class was huge for him, like huge for him. And obviously, like he's got his own career in his own right. Like this isn't a Jack Harlow episode, so I'm not going to dive into that. But like, if that song wasn't so fucking catchy, and it didn't just take off, it just wouldn't. It wouldn't be the same. Like, just to go off on a tangent, TikTok has revived so many people. Fucking Kate Bush.
Yeah.
Like it's such a lovely story because like she owns all the rights to the music. So like 30 years after she made Run Up the Hill, she got like £250,000 just slapped into her account, which is amazing. And like someone like who's the guy who did All About That Bass?
Meghan Trainor.
Oh yeah.
She now just runs off the fact that she can make a song, then someone will make a dance of it, and like she will find the TikTokers, the influencers, invite them over. You make a dance, teach me the dance. We'll put it out. Let's go make some money. And it's gonna compartmentalize really to like the smallest denominator in the next 5 years. Like it will be. Okay, what is clippable? What is gonna be? Can we speed this up, or can we remix this to make it fit a TikTok? Which is sad, but again, it gives a lot of people a platform that they wouldn't have had otherwise. What's your where do you stand in it? What's your opinion?
Obviously, I love Spotify. I listen to some of my stats at the end of the year are stupid. So in that sense, I'd be lost without it. But obviously, like there's a certain element of happiness that comes from browsing physical records in shops.
100%.
One of my favorite pastimes. It is obviously more expensive. Like I don't know how much this costs. 30 quid or something. But you own it. Do you know what I mean? It's yours. Like I own this. I don't own anything on Spotify. But I don't disagree or agree. I think it's just an interesting point to make. I think the artists should probably get more.
Yeah.
And it is sort of changing music probably for the worst. Worse. Bands, it's very hard for guitar bands and stuff that's not popular. Rock's not really cool at the minute. And whether or not that's just a phase or that's because of the rise of TikTok and Spotify and I don't know. But I like having both.
Yeah,
I think that's good.
I think one feeds into the other. I think like my vinyl collection is a tenth of the size of yours, but the that was something that I came into later in life. Like
Yeah.
I was a music fan, and having music at my fingertips kind of pushed that forward for me to the point where I was like, actually, no, I do want the side of actually I want to own this. Like I want to have this, and then equally the other way around. Like you buy the physical thing. Like we all bought CDs back in the day. Like that builds your kind of affinity to the music, and then you have the Spotify's or whatever it is to. You can't take your vinyl with you on your bus, like as much as you might try.
Yeah.
You kind of have the balance of the two, and they should hopefully be
Yeah.
able to live kind of like harmoniously. But I don't know. I think the physical will always struggle against the digital age now.
Yeah, it's just different.
Yeah, it's just different. It's just different.
And it's so much easier to carry around an iPhone with every song ever made on it than it is to carry a vinyl, like Dapo says. Or an Android, sorry, Dapo.
Piss off. Honestly, I've just been rinsed for having an Android recently.
Yeah, you always will be.
I used to.
Why'd you change? Oh.
I used to have an Android. Yeah, I've come to my senses. I think Androids are as good, but iPhones are just better. Because they're just, it's so nice, isn't it? It's just a nice, it's such a well-designed phone. But
we digress hugely about again iPhones. Do you have any guilty pleasure listening? You've had some very cool picture, a cool guy with cool sounds coming out you.
Hey.
What do you listen to that maybe you're not so proud of in that old vinyl collection or on that old Spotify?
I think ABBA's been talked about a bit. I like ABBA a lot. I don't think that's a guilty pleasure.
Have you been to the Voyage?
I haven't. Because I haven't got £1 million. My sister's been. She said it was incredible.
Yeah, I'm way more tempted than I ever thought I would be.
Yeah.
Like, it just does look fucking unreal.
My brother went, like, his girlfriend's family, like, huge ABBA fans, and he, like, went as, like, their +1, based up for free, and he was like, I thought this was going to be so boring. It was probably the maddest concert I've ever seen.
It's such a bonkers concert. They're sitting at home in Sweden or whatever, just counting the money.
Absolutely raging.
And the shows are they're like every night. It's like 3 a day or something.
Yeah.
They must be making so much money.
Minted. I think it's only a limited time, so we better get.
That's what it's saying.
They
10 years time.
Stadium for it. Like they're going to be around for a while.
Guilty pleasures. I actually quite like some Taylor Swift stuff.
Did you? Recent or old?
Surprising.
No, old stuff. Her old first few albums.
Now Fearless kind of time, or
Fearless, yeah.
Speaking to us,
Teardrops My Guitar sort of era.
Something professional.
Yeah. he suddenly got really tense when he heard the word Swift. He was like, "Oh, talk to me."
Don't mind a bit of Take That from time to time. Robbie Williams.
Shine is a fucking beat.
Gary Barlow, mate. Can't take my hat. Take my hat
off to
him. James Blunt, maybe.
Ooh, fair. Back to Bedlam.
Yeah, it's great.
You know what?
It's a great album.
Back to Bedlam's a banger.
It's a pretty good album. I think. What's the Three Wise Men song?
Three Wise Men.
Is it called Three Wise Men?
Yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah, do you know, I turned my nose up, but I take that back.
Yeah.
Take that back, yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to think. There's probably quite a lot of shit on my phone.
Everyone does. Like,
Probably all I'm willing to reveal.
do you have like a favourite vinyl? Do you have something that just gets a lot of play, a lot of airtime?
That Jesus and the Mary Chain album I talked about.
Mhm.
I had to get that from Germany.
Oh wow!
Sent to me because you can't. It hasn't been remastered. It's just still they never remastered it. So albums like this they remaster like every year, and it's easy to find. But that one's impossible to find. And some old man sent it to me. I bought it on eBay, and I play it very often. It's starting to wear itself down.
Oh really?
The needle's starting to.
Oh wow!
But that is it's such a good album. Probably that one, or
you check it out.
Maybe something else by the Kinks. Gets quite a lot of plays.
Okay.
Some Beatles albums. Abbey Road.
Any ELO in your collection you're a fan of?
I've actually got ELO's Mr. Blue Sky. Sorry, on I've got the single disc, like the actual. It's a blue transparent disc.
Oh, nice.
Original one.
Oh, nice.
And my dad loves that. And it's pretty cool. It's like I don't think they were really doing that at the time, releasing blue multicolored albums. Nowadays they're modern thing. But I haven't really listened to that much ELO.
I have Doja Cat's Pink. Guess what colour that is?
Yellow.
blue.
Yeah.
I do love a multicolored album. Have you heard of Blood Rex?
Heard of them again, but don't know.
So they're this like sort of new independent-y record pressing company that make really, really cool multicolored splatter discs and all sorts of fancy discs, sort of in collaboration with the artists. But they sell out instantly. But I managed to get Noel Gallagher's new album's coming out soon. Big fan of him, and it's really cool. It's like splattered like grey and white and stuff. It's really cool.
And the psychedelic porn crumpets do a lot of stuff with that kind of thing as well.
Yeah,
they're mad.
that's the best band name ever, by the way.
It is the best band name ever. Yeah.
Porn crumpets. Like, what's that? Is it
No, Cornflake.
Cornflake?
Yeah.
That guitar intro to that is incredible. It just it's like being on I don't know what different planet, but it's amazing. It's amazing.
I don't know what they're fucking doing. They're a great band though.
They are.
I think that is everything that we've had. Time has absolutely flown by.
It really has. Yeah, this has been such a pleasure, man.
Yeah, it was nice to let Barney do some actual hosting for once.
Yeah, I got to talk about music. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Don't worry, next show is going to be about rap. No,
it's nice to have someone that has a great sense of music taste. And Dapo.
Love it. No, it has been really good having you on, Chris. I think for both of you actually, like it's been really
lovely morning for me.
Really like deep dive insight, and like I think that is exactly what we're looking for. Like that's what we love. We love to like pick away at the bones, the bare bones of an album, and you really did it. Like you obviously have the knowledge, you obviously spent the time. Like it's sometimes we were just like sat back and just letting you run with it. So it was
really nice,
really good episode, and I think we'll definitely get you on for future. We can have a debate,
absolutely,
have a little debate about the Beatles.
Oh, classic rock roundup or something. definitely room for fun in this.
Thank you for having me on.
Everybody at home, please follow Clarkie Spins. That's Clarkie_spins on Instagram. And Vinyl Resting Place as well. I think we are
all over the bloody socials.
Yeah,
obviously Spotify, but now Instagram and YouTube, and we'll link everything down below as well as Clarkie's Spins.
Love that.
Thank you very much.
See you next week.
Peace.